Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Becca Duncan, and I'm the Media and Events Lead at the Rivers Trust. I'm very excited to be introducing this Swimming Stories conversation this evening with Lindsey Cole, Becca Harvey, and Ella Foote. I think it's going to warm us all inside on what's turned out to be a very cold November night. Right then, I am loath to hold up proceedings too much, but I do want to say a quick bit about why we're hosting this event tonight. For those who aren't maybe too familiar with the Rivers Trust, we are a conservation charity and our mission is wild, healthy, natural rivers valued by all. As the umbrella body representing nearly 70 local rivers trusts across the UK and Ireland, we take a science-led, solutions-focused approach to river restoration, and we're also very committed to working in partnership. Today marks the start of our Big Give campaign, during which any public donations made through the Big Give website are doubled via match funding. So whilst we recognise that particularly when times are quite tough and we wanted to make this event free and inclusive to everyone, any donation that you can give would be very gratefully received, and that will be used to support rivers at the local, regional and national scale. So I'm going to ask Emma just to pop the link in the chat now. The campaign runs until next Tuesday, the 5th of December. Finally, just before I hand over to Ella, I'm going to reiterate our normal housekeeping points. So we are taking questions towards the end of the event. Please use the Q&A function to do so. You can also use that to upvote any other questions that you've seen that you'd like to be answered. You can use the chat function to share your comments or hopefully be chatting away already now. Let us know maybe where you're joining from tonight. We've got closed captions available on the webinar, which you can activate by clicking CC on your toolbar and then show subtitles. You can also use that to change the size. And just finally, the event is being recorded, although as an attendee, you won't be on camera or mic. So hopefully that is all fine. Without further ado, I will ask Ella to come on and then introduce our other speakers and start things off. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Becca. Hi, hello, and welcome to the first event in this series to mark the River Trust's Big Give. So yeah, fantastic to hear from Emma and Becca at the Rivers Trust today that the first day of fundraising has gone really, really well. So yeah, if you can share all about the Big Give after this, that'd be great. I am honoured and involved to be, I'm honoured to be involved and to support the Rivers Trust, as well as excited to welcome and speak to our guests, Lindsey Cole and Becca Harvey. I will bring them on in a minute. My name is Ella Foote. I'm editor at Outdoor Swimmer magazine, author of a new book, How to Wild Swim. I'm also the Dip Advisor, which is an outdoor swimming guide, predominantly in the South and Southeast. And in 2019, I swam my Dip a Day December to raise money and awareness for the Rivers Trust. I swam in 31 different rivers in the month. So every day I swam in a different river. And it was largely to kind of see the state of the rivers and sort of ask the question, are they as bad as we all think they are? And raise that awareness of river pollution. So it's really cool to be talking to you all today and also to help out the Rivers Trust. So let's invite our guests. Let's first of all invite Lindsey Cole. Lindsey is famous for swimming as an adventure mermaid. She is often seen these days with a giant poo. She is a children's author and illustrator, writer, campaigner, speaker, swimming coach. She has an impressive swimming CV as well as adventure CV, which includes lots of river swimming. In 2018, which is actually when I first met Lindsey, she swam 120 miles down the River Thames in her mermaid tail to raise awareness about plastic pollution, and that inspired her first children's book, The Mermaid and the Cow. In 2021, she swam down the Avon into Bristol to raise awareness of sewage pollution, which is what her new book, The Mermaid, the Otter and the Big Poo, is based on. And then this summer, as if that wasn't enough, she swam across the Bristol Channel in her mermaid tail with her big poo. And we should talk all about the poo and the big book and the poo in a moment. We also have Becca Harvey. Becca is an extreme ice miler. We'll find out what that exactly means. A marine animal medic, an outdoor swim professional. And she is also the star of the Ice Mile, an award-winning film about her ice mile swim, why she did it and how she prepared for it. And as well as supporting other people with their cold water swimming dreams, she speaks openly about her battle with PTSD, raising awareness about the mental illness. Ladies, welcome. Hooray, hurrah, turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves.
Oh, that was the hard bit. Unmute, yep, done
it. Welcome. So as Rebecca from the Rivers Trust mentioned at the beginning, we are going to start with a bit of a chat. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and then we will open it up to Q&A to anyone that's watching. If you have a burning question as we chat, you can put it straight into the Q&A chat and we will get onto them. And yes, Rebecca and Emma are also on the call. So if there's a Rivers Trust specific question, they can help us with that. Now, this is a little bit indulgent, but I thought I would start with a little bit from my book because, you know, why not? But it's about rivers. So I thought it would kind of set the scene for us. So in my introduction, I write, while I have always loved the water, I haven't always loved its wild unpredictability or the looming creatures that inhabit it. Though I came to realise that almost everything in the water is more afraid of you than you are of it, pretty much everything swims or moves away from you. I also didn't really understand why people liked river swimming. There were a lot more weeds in rivers than the sea, but like many things in life, the more you do something, the better you get and the more you learn. The sea will always be my deep first love and joy, my first wild water experience, but I fell in love with river swimming. This has been a slow burn that has become meaningful and essential. I discovered the joy of rushing, bubbling young rivers with deep pools. I found comfort in the reeds brushing my legs and the squidge of mud between my toes. I take great joy in journey swims from one place to another down a river, enjoying vast widths and lengths ahead of me and allowing the natural flow to push, float or pull me downstream. Many sorrows and difficulties have been washed away in a river. So I thought I would start by asking you both, what is it about river swimming and what is your favourite river to swim in? So, Lindsey, what's your favourite river?
I've got quite a few actually, but the Dart I think is very special.
Yes.
But I'd have to say the Bristol Avon just because it's my patch and I have swum the entire length of it. Although I am fond of the Thames. But why do I like river swimming?
What is it about river swimming you love?
I prefer river swimming to sea swimming and lake swimming. I like the movement, the flow, and it's not always the same. So, well, sea swimming is not always the same, but I just love the magic of it. So you could, when I did the Thames, I would have it was November, so it was very cold, and there was no other people around, no boats or anything, and I'd have a gaggle of Canadian geese run on the water surface and take over my head, and I could hear the whir of their wings, and it's just I don't think I've ever found peace quite like being swimming in a river.
Yeah. And Becca, you're up in the northeast predominantly, although
Yes.
I know you spend time in the southwest. What's your favourite river?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, when it comes to rivers, I think my favourite ones are in Scotland because I spend a lot of my time working up there. And there's a particular one called the Feshie, which is absolutely ferocious. And there's a lovely little swim spot there underneath a bridge, like a canopy of trees. And it's just the most beautiful spot. It's those type of swims in rivers that you can't swim in them all the time. So they just feel that little bit special to be like, oh, it's chosen me. I'm allowed in this time. So yeah, it's really changeable. It's never the same twice. And that's what I love about it, really.
And one of the things I think that's really lovely is all the different kinds of communities and people that you get along a river. So not only do you find swimmers, but you know, there's fishermen, sometimes they can be grumpy, people that live there, dog walkers, you know, all kinds of people. And I know that Lindsey, you've kind of found this in buckets as you kind of swam down these rivers. Tell us about some of the sort of people or communities that you've engaged with.
Well, actually, I have got my book here, but I just like to show
funny
you this bit when it goes missing. Next, she met a fisherman, but he was too upset about the lack of fish and ignored her. Some fishermen can be like that. I liked your when you said that. The people, well, yes, you come across people live on boats, like barge boats, and then I've swum past like girls and guys rowing, training, and I give them a little flap on my tail and surprise them. And dog walkers or just people passing by. It's just a real joy, actually. And you're always, I think, with the sea, you can so fast that you can see everyone, and even though you're on your own, you keep yourself on your own. Whereas on a river, everyone's going towards the river, walks alongside the river, so you're sort of all brought together.
Yeah, people are kind of drawn to the water. And I mean, you're a dog owner, Becca. You love walking.
As you will have heard.
Yeah. And I know, Lindsey, you're also a dog lover. But you know, that's the thing, like if you go to a river, you know, predominantly quite a lot of our rivers, we're fortunate, unfortunately some of them aren't accessible, but lots of them have lovely tow paths and you get to meet lots of people. Like, what is it you think that people are drawn to the water? Like, why do you think they love a river, a walk or a swim?
I think there's something just so lovely about being in nature, isn't there? I think that's why anybody goes to, you know, especially even getting a dog in the first place, a lot of it is being able to spend more of that time in nature and having an excuse to do it and be like, well, the dog needs it. But I think it's also, you know, our own mental health, and that blue space is so important for so many people. And, you know, it doesn't cost you anything. It's so important to just get out and be able to just even sit by a river. There's something so lovely about the flow of it and the energy that you get from it, regardless of it being like a normal lake stop or anything like that.
Yeah. And
can I add, Ella?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Factor, because I did have a dog, but she said
you had a lovely dog. Yes, I didn't want to upset you.
No, it's okay. But that was.
Oh, we've lost you, Lindsey. Your voice.
Oh,
there we go.
That was one of my favorite things about taking Pippa for a walk, the adventure of finding an entrance to get in, because you can't get in anywhere. And she wasn't a swimmer, but she loved paddling her paws, so she would always try and, like, at any time there was like a nook or cranny, she would try and see if she could get down, and then she couldn't, so I'd be like, oh, can I get in there, Pippi? And so it made it a fun adventure for both of us. You had to work for your swim.
Yes, yeah. And Pippa was a fantastic I don't know whether I felt a little bit sorry for Pippa, because she was dressed up as a cow, she's been dressed up as an otter, but she was a great support of all your
She was David Bowie as well for my birthday.
Oh my God, there you go. The best dog dress up ever. But yeah, there is something about people being drawn to the river, and unfortunately we see a lot in the news, and I'm often saying to people it's not as bad as it is sort of displayed in the news. But you know, what has been your experience of some of these rivers that you guys have swum in? Have you ever come across some really horrible things, as in pollution, litter? Perhaps you could share some of those experiences, Lindsey.
Well, I was actually very ill when I swam the length of the Avon. I was violently sick for 24 hours, which is sort of a good thing as well, because I got a lift in a canoe the next day. But so, and I did smell all the stuff coming out of the overflows, but and I've seen loads of plastic. But I'm probably a bad advocate for this, because I just get in anyway. I think you can smell it. If it doesn't smell right, then don't get in. But generally, there's no rivers in Britain or England that are very healthy at all, but you can still, I'm feral anyway, so I get in anything.
We keep losing.
Yeah, sorry. I've got this new laptop and it's a bit too high tech. Scotland, the water is dreamy, whereas down here there's a lot more things that you can get, but I just get in anyway.
What's the rivers like in Scotland, Becca? Like, you know, are they as dreamy as we all imagine?
Oh yeah, I mean, and some. I mean, they're just amazing. I mean, yeah. Whereas where I live in Sunderland, so I'm on the Tyne and the Wear, and they're just not. I mean, you can swim in them. I choose not to swim in the Wear, just because of the pollution element. Like every time, I mean, Michael, who's my partner, who's also a swimmer, he'll get in anything. And, you know, he's the person that won't catch anything. Whereas I've had bad experiences in rivers previously where I've just gone, actually, I don't want to be ill for like a couple of days, or I can't be ill because I've got something on, or all this. I mean, the last time we went to the Weir, Michael came out with a plant pot, and then, you know, all sorts getting in and out, plastic, as you say, Linz, dog poo bags floating past, all sorts. And especially like the speed and the energy in a river as well. I feel that because I'm predominantly a sea and lake swimmer. So when it comes to the river, it's quite intimidating too. Because I used to live down south near Lindsey, Clevedon way, and I swam 7.5 kilometers along the Wye years ago. And they all told us, you know, do not eat halfway along the course. And I stupidly did, because I just can't say no.
Do you know what, sorry?
Do not eat halfway along the course, because they got food stations, but don't use your hands and all this sort of stuff. And really? Any of our team that were in, who decided to stop at this one stop, we'd eaten a banana, didn't think about it. And then I was ill for maybe 8 days afterwards. It was just horrific.
Yeah.
The Wye's got a terrible reputation.
And that was in 2019, 2020? It must have been 2019. And yeah, I was dreadfully ill after that. But I'm like Lindsey, I'm a bit feral. I would, you know, if something smells bad, then I will get out. But I've had bad instances in the sea, you know, swimming through tampons, a lot. You name it, I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, it is depressing. And you know, I often get asked, I've become some sort of like poo expert in the media. When the news headlines hit, I often get asked to, you know, talk about it. And you know, one thing I will say is I do think rivers have got a lot better than they've been historically. That doesn't mean they're in a good state, and we're not just talking about healthy enough to bathe in, we're also talking about ecological health as well. And I, you know, often people say to me, should I swim and all that? And obviously there's things you can do. So, you know, not swimming after heavy rainfall, covering your cuts and grazes, washing.
But that's when I got really sick. It was really heavy rainfall. So it's sort of hand in hand, really.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really lucky, touch wood. I haven't actually ever been poorly as a result of swimming in any water. I don't know whether I just got one of those really strong constitutions, or I just haven't been unfortunate. But I have, you know, I've done river events when other people have become ill and I haven't. But, you know, or I'm a really good swimmer.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Because I often say to people, technique, you know, you shouldn't really be drinking the water. But you know, it is depressing, and that's why we're here, and that's why the Rivers Trust is really, really important, all the work that they do. But at the same time, there's lots of things we can do to mitigate the risk. And I also say that we should continue to swim in rivers, because as people are swimming in our outdoor spaces, it becomes a public health problem, and then the government hopefully will pay a bit more attention, although I know that's a difficult task for us to do. So yes, if you are watching thinking, oh, do I want to river swim? Yes, please do keep river swimming and mitigate those risks.
There are lovely rivers to swim in. I mean, I've said I mean, the ones I recall are the ones in, you know, the Wye, the Tam, the Weir. They're not the greatest ones to swim in anyway, but if that's not a river, there's always other rivers to have a look at, see who's around. There's lots of groups that are designated river swimmers at different points in different places, and that's usually how I find my spots anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. There's lots of really great swimming communities that swim in rivers. And yeah, if you're just starting out, it's worth seeking one of them. I mean, I always say to people, like, trust your instinct, you know, that sort of icky feeling you get of like, oh, this doesn't feel right, you know, trust that. And use those senses. If it doesn't look right, smell right, even taste right, then yeah, definitely don't get in. But also report it. If you see things, definitely report incidences to the Environment Agency. So yeah, so that's really important. And you know, let's talk about the natural environment, because this isn't just about selfishly for us swimming in it. You know, we need to think about the wider wildlife. So you know, let's talk about some of the nice things about river swimming, things you've seen, so wildlife that you've witnessed, beautiful things. Lindsey, did you see any otters when you did the Avon?
I haven't, no. Otters are very elusive, so you get loads of them up in Scotland, and you get lots of sea otters, but river otters, they can travel 40 kilometers in a day, and they tend to they leave their poo on like a rock or by a tree branch or something, to signal to other otters that's either their territory or to let their mates know where they are. So they're really hard to spot. So it's I'm still hunting now. I've seen lots of otter poo, which is fun, but I see lots of kingfishers, and it's incredible to be swimming and have a flash of a kingfisher fly by. So yeah, I just love
And you know,
and
that
even,
is
even there's a spot near me, actually, the Bristol Avon, is quite popular. You've been to Wally Weir, that is heaving in summer, but still, even then, everyone always goes to the same spot. If you just walk around the corner, me and Pip would like find our own hidden gem and sit there, and it's blazing sunshine, really busy, but we're on our own. And then you get a little kingfisher go by, and I'm like, yay, Pippi, this is us.
yeah. I always think it's going to be a good swim when you see a kingfisher. It's like a good luck charm. What about up in Scotland? I bet there's loads of wildlife in rivers.
Well, you say that, but I the only one I've had like nearly terrified me when a salmon jumped out in front of it was huge. It was like, you know, almost length of arm style. And it terrified me and then ruined my swim. So it was one of those like, and then yeah, not a great moment. But I was swimming with my mum recently. Well, no, this was a couple of months ago now, and we had a heron swim over us. That was pretty spectacular. And yeah, as you say, with kingfishers, it's just like that little icing on the cake of like, oh wow, this is just incredible.
Yeah,
in Conham, my go-to spot, there's a walk. I walk a bit further, and you go past this spot where it says private, no fishing or something like that. But I think people think you're not allowed to go there, but it means private, you can't fish. And it's quite a treacherous walk because the bank's slipping away, and there's heron nests right up on top of the trees. Yeah, and you can always hear them like chirping. They seem cute, but I'm not a big fan of herons because they eat ducklings.
Yeah. You get to witness the life cycle a bit more, don't you, on a river?
Well, we had now I'm thinking about it, we had a great incident. Well, not a great incident, because we had a baby crow fall in the river in the Tyne we were in. God, this was over the summer, and it's fallen out of its nest, head down into the river. And then I just went into full mammal medic mode, wrapping the towel, all of this sort of stuff, took it to the local wildlife intake. And it was just, it's like, it still stays with us, like, oh, is that the crow that we rescued from the summer? And we go down. You think it's just little bits like that too, that even though that could have been a negative experience, it was like, because we were there, we were able to help. Which
I think you do get to witness, don't you? You get to witness wildlife in a different way with the river. I always kind of describe it, your sort of nose with the earth, you know, when you're down in the river. You can see like the roots at the edge of the riverbank of the plant life, and yeah, you moving a bit quieter, like, you know, wildlife at the sea doesn't tend to come towards the beach, but you do get to experience wildlife in a river a bit more.
And I like the feeling on your legs, because I went with Kath Pendleton. She came to visit me once and she did not like it because all these tree roots and like other stuff stroking her leg, and she was screaming and I loved it because it was so funny hearing her.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I always say to my clients, it's just river salad, don't worry, it's do there.
I've not heard it called that.
Yeah, it's the way to just kind of, don't worry, it's just river salad. But often I say to people when they encounter wildlife that it's really a positive thing, because obviously if the water is really polluted or not in good health, then you wouldn't see kingfishers, they wouldn't have any fish to feed on, and the water boatmen that kind of skate across the water, they can't do that if the water's dirty. So I often say to people, as much as people don't like the creepy crawlies or the mud or the weeds, they're actually really good for our river health. Let's talk a little bit about swimming, I suppose. What possesses a woman to put on a mermaid tail and cross the Bristol Channel? I mean, swimming across the Bristol Channel is hard enough, but in a mermaid tail, and a giant blue.
I can vouch that I reckon it is harder in a mermaid's tail than without one. I just did it for fun when I did the Thames to do my campaign against plastic pollution, and then rescued the cow and then turned it into a book, and then discovered that kids really like mermaids. So I thought I'd do a theme. So now it's just become a thing, marrying my love of adventure, storytelling, and the environment. But yeah, it's actually not easy in a tail. It's quite a lot. It's quite hard work. And actually I went to Kendal Mountain Festival last week, and to promote my book, because it came out then, it was cutting it fine for the book to arrive. So I thought I'd swim across Windermere in my tail with the poo, and I had my friend sat board beside me wearing an otter costume. She brought a friend along, so I had a spare frog costume.
As you do.
Yeah. And I was annoyed actually, because we made ITV and they cut my friend out, who was the otter, and put the frog on. I was like, it's not a power frog. But
you not get a memo.
I know, no one ever listens. But it was so cold. I'm a wimp with the cold. I really don't like it, even though I was wearing a wetsuit. And for me, I love getting in and putting my head under, but that's where the brain freeze was coming. So I'd do 3 strokes and then I'd come up and die, and do 3 strokes and come up and die. But if you don't put your head under with a mermaid tail, it really hurts your back, and it's really impossible to swim in it. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And what, I mean, did you train for the channel in your tail? What kind of things did you do?
Yeah, I trained loads to do the Bristol Channel. I didn't train at all for to do the Thames, because I thought I'm a good swimmer, so I thought if I could just manage doing something in the tail, then I'd be able to do 8 hours a day. But with the Channel, it's the second highest tidal range in the world. So if I wasn't quick enough, then I'd miss the turn of the tide, and I could end up in Cornwall. So I did train, and my good friend Laura, she did it the year before, and I greeted her at the end, and she didn't look like she enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, I've got to train. So I did train a lot. I joined a swimming club, Bristol Penguins, and then I joined a fin swim. I've been fin swimming for a number of years.
Yeah.
I play underwater rugby, so it was all.
Yeah. All complementary stuff.
Yeah.
It amazes me, because the thought of having my legs constricted by something like that, really frightens me.
Well, the thing is, when you jump in and want to go for a swim or pootle, I'm a big pootler, you can tread water, but when you have the tail on, you can't. And you've got to just get going, and you can't even go slowly. You have to it is you have to just go.
Yeah, I mean, swimming the Bristol Channel isn't an easy thing to do anyway. It's just
no, people say that because it was hard.
Yes, and the pictures of you are almost unrecognizable at the end of the swim because you were sort of a bit swollen. It's like you soaked up all the water.
I know. A friend, a journalist asked if I had any pictures, and someone took some pictures and they sent just a few. I was like, oh, have you got any better ones? Or I'm looking all right, because I look a bit funny. But yeah, because of the salt, my face just swelled up. Yeah. I went to a festival the next day and I was like, I don't think this is the right decision.
Doing anything after that swim, Linz.
I would have been sleeping.
I know. Yeah.
And Becca, so tell us, what is an extreme eye smile? How is that different to a normal eye smile?
Oh goodness, put me on the spot now, Ella. There's different things that qualify it to be an extreme eye smile. It's below 2 degrees in temperature, if it's got a -15 or below wind chill, if it's at a certain altitude. Oh goodness, what are the other ones? Oh, my one, which is if it was over 45 minutes, if it takes over 45 minutes to complete. And they're just extra tolls on the body. So you should have extra safety precautions in place if you're looking like it's going to take you that long to complete.
And an eye smile is a mile of outdoor swimming of 5 degrees or under.
Yeah.
So not a comfortable temperature.
It's also my nightmare. I can't even get in that temperature for 60 seconds.
I mean, I've got a lot more bioprene than you, Linz. That's the thing. It's just I think if I was your size, I don't think I could do it. I just think it's like it's a certain constitution that helps me. It's all my extra blubber because I
was cold in the channel in July, in August.
I bet. Well, it's like how our muscles, how they warm up and all the different things. Because I still stay cold. Like I stay cold for so long. I find that my back and like all my lumpy bits, really, my hips, my bum, my boobs, they stay cold forever. And there's something about
you enjoy the cold, because a lot of people yearn for the cold. Oh no, I love this.
I think I used to love the cold. I used to yearn for it, and that was my that was my relief. That was the whole reason I got into ice swimming, was because I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I just had complete shame and judgment about it from my perspective, because I thought, oh, only war veterans get this. And then heard about alternative therapies to what people can help. And I saw these guys in Clevedon who get in a lot. And because I had family that were local, I was like, right, I'll get in with these guys. They know what they're doing. And then it's the only place I don't feel pain. So it just became addictive for me. And it more became about the pain relief and what I got, rather than that thrill of the cold, I suppose. I think I must have had it at the start, but I think once you go through that first season of like, oh my goodness, it's so cold, and then that down of it not being cold anymore, like nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about what happens when it warms up. And then
I do.
Like you get all these people like coming to the water for mental health reasons, and like great, and this is great, but then when it starts warming up and then you lose that lifeline, it's quite hard.
Quite a few swimmers I follow, they kind of annoy me, because as soon as like August rolls around, they start looking forward to winter, and I'm like, don't wish this away.
Push it away.
and I sort of I'll do winter swimming, but I do it for similar reasons, just kind of get me through, but I don't love it. I hate the admin around it. I hate how long it takes you to get ready for a swim, and how long you have to recover afterwards, and how little swimming you actually do. But when I'm actually in the water, of course I love it, and that's why I do it. But like the amount of kit you need for a winter swim compared to being able to just sit in the sun after a swim.
I never love it. I never love it but the aftermath I love.
The type 2
cold swimming.
Yeah.
What bit? The chatter or the zing on your body?
Zing, yeah. I always, I mean, you've both seen me get into cold water. Some people who haven't seen me and then do see me say, what's wrong with you? I thought you meant to be a cold water swimmer. I'm like, I never profess to be a cold water swimmer. I just swim in England and it's cold, because I scream and squeal and I dance up and down the steps, and it will take me a long time, and then I'll get in and I'll be out within 10 seconds. But afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's a nice sensation. But it feels like I'm dying.
I would say to people, you have to get to the other side of that feeling like you're going to die to get to that sweet spot.
That 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know though, because I also think it doesn't matter, does it? It's whatever you get out of it.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
You're
And
getting
what kind of training did you have to do, Becca?
Well, I was training for 3 years for mine, so it was just relentless, really. And I think you do a lot of summer training too. So you do longer distances and you can see how far you can push yourself. Like I was signing up to events a lot of the time. A lot of people ask me how to train for an ice mile. And the safest way to do so is to either get a coach or to sign up to cold water events, because then you can push yourself within the realms of, you know, what you're capable of, but you've got a safety team there to back you up if you decide that it's too far or anything like that. So that's kind of how I trained, and training for that I did bless Pauline Barker with the Polar Bear Challenge. That's kind of how I first started elongating how long to be in, at what temperature, and just seeing how it felt on my body, because a lot of people race to get these achievements, but for me, I always thought that it was a 5-year plan. I was like, right, I need to get to know my body, I need to do all this. And funnily enough, she's already been mentioned, but Kath Pendleton was the reason that I started training when I did, because she was like, you've got a natural ability here, just go for it next time. And then we're in that lovely bit of the UK where we know, it's the ice swimming community is actually quite small, because everybody kind of knows everybody. It's like just a lovely big family really across the UK. And Leon Fryer was then giving me advice of who to talk to and where to go. And then, that was it really. Just keeping on, having a coach, and also having somebody to train with who was doing similar distances, or, just wanted to be in for a bit of static cooling, the same as me. So that's kind of what I did really. But grueling. Nobody talks about the mental side of it. The mental pressure was horrific. And I said the year I did it, that was going to be my last year. It was that year or not at all, because I just didn't think it was in the cards. And there was something in my body that just didn't want to, just because every time I got temperatures, like, I was training, the year I got mine, I was training in 2 to 3 degrees weekly. And that, because that's in Northumberland, we've got a lake here that gets really low really quick and then will stay consistently cold. So I was training in that for a long period of time, and just it just getting into that and being like, I've got to do a K today, because it's under 5. It was horrible. I lost my love of it. And
event swimming can kill the swim mojo.
Killed the vibe. So then when that all went, it was just like, oh, this is why. So the training parts of it, and that mental side of it is hard. But also, if anyone is an ice swimmer who's listening, just because you have one bad swim doesn't mean that the rest of your week's like a throwout, because each time we step to a side of a body of water, we are a different human, whether that's different stress levels, different fuel, different hydration, like how much we've slept the night before. Just because you don't like it that day doesn't mean that you won't like it tomorrow. So that was a big mental learning curve for me in my training.
And both of you with events, and I know you experienced this, Linz, when you have a bit of a come down, you have all your focus on this one thing and your training, and it's all you sort of talk or think about, and then you do the thing and it's great, or you achieve it, and then it's like, oh, now what? You had a really big come down, didn't you, Lindsey?
Yeah, well, the Thames was worse actually, because it took me I didn't know if I could use a mermaid tail, and then I probably spent about 3 months planning it, because I was meeting up with schools along the way, and I need to the logistics of an adventure swim is really hard, because you need to know where you're going to start and stop, and you kind of can't really be too ambitious, but you also need to move a fair amount, and then you need to know where you're going to stay. It was November, so I wasn't going to camp. I know someone who did it once, and they camped beside the river. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, so when I finished the Thames, I hated it at first, because I was living in Spain before I did it, in Valencia, where the med was 17 degrees. And if I that's when I first met you, Ella.
Yeah, I remember us getting in together and you were like, oh, I've been in Spain. I was thinking, oh, you're going to really not like this.
I met Ella for an interview with the outdoor swimmer the day before I got in the Thames, and you wanted us to be in the water, and I got in, and I was so cold. It was, and because of that, I was sick that night. I was thinking about it, and I vomed, and anytime I tried to eat, I was sick. And then every day I couldn't eat breakfast or something in the middle of the day because it would make me sick. And I was wearing 2 wetsuits, 2 pairs of gloves, 2 pairs of boots because I was so cold. But when I finished, I'd focused so much on the planning of it that I hadn't focused on life afterwards. So I didn't have any work, and it was December, it was Christmas, so I had no work, so I had no money. And even though it was work to swim, I wasn't getting paid. So I felt really, really sorry for myself, which is why I carried on swimming around the country. But this summer with the Bristol Channel, it was a different type of downer because it was so hard. You couldn't have a focus because the tide changes so much. So they say just stay with the boat, and I'm like, but I need to know where I'm going. They're like, we'll just go that way, and I'm like, it was so demoralizing, and it was hard anyway. And then I think it was fine because people came to meet me, and it was really nice. It was sunny, and Pippa came. And this was 2 weeks before Pippa died, actually, so it was really nice having her there. But I was fine with all that. And then I got home and set up camp downstairs with Pippa, and we just watched like films and had a takeaway and stuff. And then I spoke to a journalist, and she really knocked me because she said, how did it like go and stuff? And I was like, well, can you be, but she was talking to me like I was like the second largest cabbage in Somerset or something at some fair. And it really, because I was doing it to highlight the condition of our waterways with a giant poo, and to make it a bit more fun for kids by being in a mermaid tail, and then turn it into a book. But because it was like she didn't care, and I was like, oh my gosh, I put myself through all this, and she didn't get it or care. And yeah, and it just went, and then I was really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. Like, clearly, you know, both of you in all the bits you do, you really care about what you do. And I know you do lots of stuff for the marine wildlife up on the northeast coast, and it can be a little bit hard to keep optimistic, can't you? Like, you can feel a little bit like you're the only one that cares about these things. And you know, there is a lot of going on globally that, you know, is horrifying, and so to try and get people to care about things is really difficult. You know, would you both say you're optimistic for our environment, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am optimistic, because I think if you weren't, then it'd make everything 10 times harder. But that's my personal take on it, especially with mammal medic stuff. Some of the stuff I see can be really horrific. So you just kind of have to hope that there's people out there that do care, and there's people like me. It's like I don't necessarily do a lot of the fundraising and stuff, but for me, it's giving back to my locality, that hopefully if I do a little bit here, that it shows other people that they can do little bits where they're local too. Because we talk so much about what we get from the water, but what are we giving back to it? Whether it's, you know, recycling more, whether it's leaving somewhere better, whether it's volunteering, you know, local places, or, you know, giving money to the Rivers Trust for a big give. It's, you know, there's so many different things you can do. And for me, it was the marine mammals near us in the northeast, because I mean, we swim with them. We've got this lovely seal called Violet, who's only got one eye. She's really down on her luck. And I mean, she has a pup every year, so she's perfectly happy and healthy. But we still have people in the northeast that throw rocks at her. So it's like, you know, there's so many different things about. There are things that are positive, because I find myself being more of a guardian now to these animals, and there's one more person on the planet that cares about them. And I think as long as we all just keep doing bits and not feeling defeated and not feeling like, you know, everything's too big, just even putting our 2 pence in, it does help the bigger picture.
Yeah. And I'm going to start to sort of wrap this up. So if people have got questions, please start popping them in. I know that there's a couple of questions here that I'll come to, but you know, Lindsey, you've been campaigning. A lot of your adventures have an environmental or global kind of subject, or you're trying to get that awareness into the public. You know, do you feel like you're chipping away, you're getting there, you're getting it out there? You know, what keeps you going?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's why I do it with the Mermaid Tale and kids, because you can't really go wrong with you keep it lighthearted. It helps me keep it lighthearted, because I've been pretty passionate about Gaza recently, and I've had to take breaks from it because it's so despairing and too much. Whereas talking about poo, sewage pollution, the state of our rivers with sewage it's really complicated. But if you just talk about poo in rivers with kids, then it just simplifies it and it makes it a bit more fun. So hopefully, yeah. And my mum's visiting to help me pack books, and she's having a natter in the kitchen, so sorry if you can hear. That's why I'm out here in my conservatory getting cold. But where was I, Ella?
We're talking about poo and children. I mean, interestingly, that I love the fact that you target kids, because they are our little optimistic, hopeful bunch, right? So,
and they're soldiers, really, because they tell you off. They tell the parents off, or the grandparents. And so I did my first show of The Mermaid, the Otter and the Big Pooh last week at Kendal. To 1,000 kids were in the audience, and I have a pun where you know, you say, if the poo gets in the river, then the otter says, "I'm Otter here," and goes elsewhere. And they didn't get it, so I said, "Oh, that's a joke. You can laugh if you like." And all 1,000 of them cracked up, howled of laughter, and started stamping their feet. And it's just the best. It's the best feeling, like delivering something that you've created, and to see an audience of young, curious, eager, wide-eyed, giggling kids. So yeah, it makes me feel good.
Hopefully not only are you teaching them lessons about the environment and how to protect it, but also inspiring them to swim outdoors and, you know, to see the wilder side of life and have an adventurous life.
Yeah, and hopefully, because some of them, what I do like as well, because I don't even like mermaids, but I was more.
You heard it here first, kids.
No, I tell everyone. I really don't, because I get given so much mermaid stuff, because they're all always quite girly, weren't they? But I like it when the little boys or girls are trying to assess whether I'm a real mermaid or not, and then they're telling me, "Oh, you're not a real mermaid," and I'm like, "Well, of course I'm not," but like, I don't say that to them. But it also lets them know that they can. Like, I never planned to be a mermaid, so they can be whatever they want to be. Maybe they could be a crocodile or something.
I love that. Okay, let's do some questions. So someone's asking, where do you find places or groups to swim with? I live near a river and see people kayaking, but never seen anyone swimming. I mean, if wherever you are, I would recommend putting into Facebook, you know, I live near Guildford, for example, I put Guildford swimmers outdoor swimming, and it kind of comes up on places. So there's a big group called the Blue Tits. They have various locations across the UK where they meet. There's various books. Any tips from you two where you find people to swim with?
I mean, that's where I found my first people, was Facebook. I mean, I literally typed Clevedon swimmers in and it came up. Now, like any time I'm swimming anywhere new or anything like that, there's squillions and squillions of Facebook groups. I mean, it's the only reason I'm still on Facebook, just for the groups, really.
Yeah, social media has a lot to answer for lots of things, but it's actually really good to connect with people for a like-minded swim. Lindsey, did you have to seek any permission to swim down the Thames? So what's the legal position for river swimming?
I did, yes. I can't see the question. I jumped through quite a lot of hoops actually, and conversations I had on the phone were a bit cringeworthy because you're not allowed to swim in certain sections of the Thames anyway. So then I said, oh, what about in a mermaid tail? And then that's not really swimming anyway. But I had to get the Port Authority, I had to let them know, and then they let all the other what do you call it? Not aware.
Lockkeepers.
Yeah, lockkeepers. They had to know. That was easier to manage than the Avon. The Avon, smaller rivers where they're not used for transport or leisure, was harder to navigate. But I just told the harbour master, and they said you're not allowed. So I just did it anyway.
So in general, the general rule is if there is a navigation or public footpath and public land alongside a river, you should be able to get in and you should be able to swim. So get your old Ordnance Survey map out and check that out. Technically, you can't own the water. So Lindsey's not wrong there. Someone can't own water that's moving. So as long as your feet aren't touching their land, you're not technically trespassing. But it's good to respect private land when you can. But there are plenty of public footpaths along rivers, although there is a lot of work to be done about access, but that's a whole other webinar that we
a whole other thing.
Sarah has asked, what are your next swimming challenges, or what are you or are you enjoying life without a challenge?
Oh, Lynn, do you want to
go first, Becca?
Sure. I'd say that for me, I want to get fitter. That's like my ultimate goal, has been my ultimate goal. I've also got an injury at the moment that I've had for about a year, so I'm still kind of just recuperating and just hoping that one day I'll be able to get faster, because that's just what I want to do. I want to get faster, not for anything in particular, just that's my little goal. But also really excitingly, I'm now branching into filmmaking myself. So yeah, I know. I mean, it was something that was been on the cards for a little while, but now it's actually looking like it actually might happen this winter. So me and Rachel potentially are putting some stuff together, which is the I Smile, which is my film that was made about me. The whole original reason I contacted Rachel, because I wanted to produce a film with her, not be in a film with her. But then it just happened. So we're hopefully going to be making a film together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. So
do you know what about?
I do, but I can't say anything yet.
Oh, secret.
We're still in talks with a few different people, but it's looking quite positive.
And Lindsey, I mean, you've got your lovely book that's just come out that you're promoting and doing a lot of work with schools. Yeah, The Mermaid, the Otter and the Big Pooh. If you haven't got it, order it for your Christmas.
I'll put a link in actually. Yes, it takes so long to organize an adventure swim and then to write and illustrate the book. So I need to actually spend time on selling it and promoting it, because that is actually my living. And I do have another swim, my next, because I'm doing a series of these kids books. The other one was plastic, this one's poo. I do there's one I want to do in the Arctic, which I don't know. When I found across winter, I was like, how on earth am
a woman that doesn't like cold swimming wants to go to
yeah, Lindsey, you said you didn't like cold swimming. That's definitely cold.
I know, but it's the storytelling that I like, and I will wear I wear a wetsuit. Are you taking notes, Ella?
I just, well, funnily enough, you've just reminded me of something that I wanted to ask you about. Being in February. My brain works.
I do wear a wetsuit. I will wear a wetsuit, but it's just the neck.
Cold, regardless of if you're in a wetsuit or not. Still cold. You're still going to have to flood that wetsuit. You're still.
It would only be a mile, but it's a logistics.
Only.
I know. It's the logistics of getting. But I've been thinking about it for a few years and planning it for a few years. So But anyway, that's now where I'm moving, is the mermaiding with environmental themes. Although I was asked to be Captain Paul Watson's ambassador at the Blue Earth Summit, so I might get in touch with them to see they want to collaborate, because a mermaid and a pirate would make a good book, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, brilliant. Lots of that. Emma's put some links to the book and my book in the
yay.
in the chat, so thanks, Emma. There was I just mentioned mental health swims are another really great group that you can join for swims if you're looking for somewhere to swim and people to swim with. So yes, well done, Kerry, for mentioning that. There was another question. Insights.
It was great to hear you chatting and your love of rivers and swimming coming through. What's your favourite bit of swimming kit?
Oh yeah, swim kit.
Oh, can I go with this first? Because this is the whole point of, sometimes I have a little bugbear with this. I just have a swimsuit and sometimes a wetsuit when it's cold, but I don't even have decent boots. I sometimes even go in socks, like normal socks that you wear with your shoes. And often I do get given stuff sometimes, and often people ask me about the stuff, and I'm very grateful for it. But what I love about swimming, and I find it annoying that it gets called wild swimming, but then what I think we should hone in on that it's wild swimming is that it should just be wild and simple and just your bare minimals of a swimsuit, and that's it. And if you want to go underwater or swim distance, hat and goggles. If you get cold, or the rest, but just a swimsuit.
Yeah, or not even that, if you find a remote
I get a very cold fanny though.
I like a decent pair of something on my feet, so I wear these tiny little booty things. Well, they're actually for yoga, but I love them. They're
really?
five fingers, because you don't know what's in the bottom of a river, so they look after my little tootsie.
But often I find with swim socks, they're really hard to get off, and I get
I hate swim socks. That's the thing. These aren't even designed for swimming. They're designed for yoga, but I love them for swimming. So that I can't live without them. Becca?
For me, it's an underlayer I've had for, oh my goodness, years and years and years. So for cold water swimming, the best thing, if you're coming out afterwards, after you've dried off, getting something that's loose but also warm on your body is paramount. And for me, I've got this kind of tattered, God, it must be 10 years old now, and it's got a roll neck. It's made for skiing, so I did a ski season back in the day, still from my ski season, and it stretches great, but it's that thing that I put on and it gives me comfort when I'm wearing it. And it's also really good at its job. So it gives me a really good base layer to put all my other layers on. And as Lindsay's pointed out, like, even though that's my favorite bit, so many people talk about kit and what you need. You have got everything you need in your house right now. Like, whether you take, like, the first time I went for a swim, I literally raided my wardrobe of just jumpers and something over the top, to keep it as like a coat or something over the top to keep me waterproof. But other than that, just layers and layers and layers and layers. I can't
especially at this time of year, lots of layers. Right, well, we could keep going all night, but we've all got things to do, and I'm sure you all have too. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to donate to the Big Give, and thank you to Becca and Lindsay for your time. And
thank you.
Thank you. And tomorrow there's another guest, Alistair Humphreys, I believe. Is that right, Rebecca?
I do have a quick wrap up that I can do.
Okay.
The rest
I will
of the Big
hand back to Rebecca.
As long as you're finished, I don't want to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will just get my slides up really quickly, because otherwise I'm going to forget what I need to tell everyone. So this should be displaying now. Well, first of all, huge thank you to Ella, Lindsay and Becca. I mean, we promised that would be a warm and informal, friendly conversation, and that's exactly what we got. And I think it was a really perfect summary of why I think once people get into the outdoor swimming community, it's hard to leave, because everyone, well, vast majority of people, I've not met anyone so far who is not as friendly and wonderful as that. So thank you all for giving up your time. And yes, once again, we are running this event as part of a Big Give campaign where any public donations made through the Big Give platform will be doubled via match funding. And we are very happy to be hosting a further 4 events over the course of the week. So tomorrow evening, we will be back on Zoom, where one of our brand new Rivers Trust ambassadors, Jack Perks, will be in conversation with Will Millard. These two also know each other well. They're both anglers, as well as many other varied things, but also passionate about conservation. So they're going to be talking about how those two interests go together, in fact, lend themselves to each other. Then we also have 3 Instagram live events, which will be hosted by the lovely Emma, who you've seen on the chat today. Starting tomorrow lunchtime, we've got adventurer, author, all-round very impressive guy, Alistair Humphreys. Then Thursday evening, Imogen Grant, who is another of our Rivers Trust ambassadors and a Team GB rower, no less, and she's going to be joining us live from a training camp in Portugal, so that's not one to miss. And then finally, on the 4th of December, Laura Young will be joining us for an Instagram Live. Laura is a plastic pollution campaigner and is particularly advocating for a ban on the production and sale of single-use vapes. So lots more to come throughout the week. Please do just visit our website to get all the further information you need to join those events. Now, all that's left for me to say is a final thank you to Ella, Lindsey and Becca for giving up their time for us this evening. I want to thank my colleagues at the Rivers Trust for helping to organise this. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming along too. I hope you enjoyed it and that you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thanks so much.